Hello my friends, in this video we will talk about all the AD carry fundamentals that you actually need. So if we go straight into the game, basically we don't really have that much, let's say macro involved in the early game as AD carry, because usually we will just go bot lane, look for good reset timers and go back to wave. The only real macro that is involved is that whenever you're looking to move for something, so let's say I'm the Jinx here, I'm moving for Drake for example, right? Then usually you don't want to hit Dragon till the end because it's better if you get back to wave really early, right? So you see here we have a good early game state on bot lane, for example. So here as a Jinx, you should be running to the bot lane wave already, so the enemies cannot contest it. In this case, it's completely whatever because the enemies cannot touch it anyways, right? So here, for example, let's say Jhin and Nico would stay here already and try to hard push the wave. Then it would be really bad for me because they would get a free crash, right? So the only macro I'm kind of having is like whenever I'm fogging into mid lane, for example, when do I need to be back on bot lane, or like what is the best way or like the fastest way to be back on bot lane so I can prevent the enemies from doing something, right? So here, for example, it would be if enemies wanted to hard push. Then the other macro part that you have as AD carry, aside from the one to be faster back on bot lane, right, is the one where we are actually opening on mid lane wave. So even here in the early game, sometimes we can move to mid lane because bot lane wave is not touchable at all. Or like, let's say, for example, we see that the enemies are slow pushing, right, and my supporter's moving top and I cannot touch the mid lane wave. These scenarios, I would say, are really rare and usually not in your game. So usually it's best to open bot lane, but not always, especially when we're playing Jhin, for example, or like Varus or champions that can assist through like range. Let's say you're Jhin, you're opening here, and then you can look for Ws, right? And if you're 6, you can even look for ulti, but you should only do this if the bot lane wave is like kind of in a good spot for that. So let's say the enemies are like slow pushing here, right? You just crashed like tons of waves. Now they're slow pushing and you couldn't touch, or like you cannot touch these waves anyways, then it makes more sense to open mid lane, look for a small timer, then go back to bot lane, right? But only on specific champs and in specific scenarios. Then the next step is basically after finishing your quest most of the times. The only real reason to not swap before having your quest is if bot lane, for example, is completely unplayable. So in this case, we killed enemy bot lane, you see I have my quest finished, and then we need to ask ourselves, so where do we open after going base? So what we could do now is move into bot lane, back again, right? Just move into bot lane, back again, play into Jhin Nico. But we see that our Ornn is struggling a bit on top lane, and we have our quest finished. That means if we are opening top lane right now, and the enemies would match that by also going top lane, then they are not progressing their quest, and we are already having our quest, and we still win 2v2, right? So every single time you're getting your quest, or like you break turret, for example, you can think about swapping lane assignments, and the main indicator for that is if you have your quest ready, or like if specific matchups or lane assignments aren't playable for the enemies. Like for example, let's say your mid laner would be way better on bot lane because, I don't know, he cannot play mid lane anymore. Then instead of just, pushing in every single bot lane wave and trying to punish the enemy, we can relieve our mid laner to go bot lane and we just go mid and basically defend mid lane. Like let's say enemy mid laner killed our mid laner like 5 times or something. And then maybe what we can do is push mid lane waves, hover bot lane so our mid laner can play again, right? That's the basic macro that we always have on bot lane. In this example, we are going top lane because, as I already mentioned, right, like my Ornn was struggling, he was low HP, and now what we do is we are taking over his lane basically. The issue now is, you can see it on the map even, if this Jhin would now go bot lane, right, he's level 8, Ornn is level 11. So what would happen now, if Ornn is actually going bot lane and Jhin is going bot lane as well, he is completely cooked because he cannot play into Ornn. And the Yone is also cooked because the Yone would play into me and Karma, which is also unplayable for him. So what the enemies need to do is they need to swap lane assignments, right? Now you see Yone is basing and Jhin is actually dropping a lot top lane. And here you will see, I just went top lane, and I'm basically getting a lot of plates for free. Like the enemies cannot contest, Jhin lost a lot of waves, and you see how fat I'm already am. And this is like not a for fun game. We're playing against Busio even, KC supporter right now, so it was like a pretty high elo game, I think. And yeah, now you see I'm just slow pushing, and that's kind of the macro we had involved for the first 14 minutes. Okay, so now the next part is I'm recalling again. You see my Talia took over my lane. So basically this is like kind of the same thing we did with the Ornn. The Talia went into top lane while I was doing a top lane play. Now what happens is that Talia is taking over the lane. I recall and open into like her lane for example, shifting would be if Ornn is shifting to mid lane now and we progress bot lane again. Then we would have like a good macro rotation. But like this, it's also fine because Talia can just progress top and the enemies have no one mid. So now I'm basing, and every single time you base, like basically on every single roll, you need to decide, okay, where do I open? Now I see my top is pushed, right? Like my Ornn is on bot lane, okay. Where's the next lane I can actually progress? And the next lane should be mid, because now it's getting important as AD carry. Okay, so usually when we're playing, or like when we're having minute 15 or around that, when we are like kind of parked on mid lane waves, right, then our macro is kinda easy as AD carry. So we always have 4 options. These are our 4 options basically to go into these directions. Okay, these options always depend on the wave state. So getting a push on mid lane, basically a priority, we call it like that. So whenever we are pushing a wave in and the enemies need to answer, right? Then we have a move, and we can use our move for specific things. We can recall and base for like item, for example, but that's not good if we're getting a prior. So usually what we do is either we hit the turret and try to like progress the game. That should always be our goal. Or we are shifting into a side. That means we're pushing the wave and then we're shifting into the side we are probably playing in. This can be to like defend or even to progress. I quickly want to show this to you in RiftKit. So let's say I'm the AD carry here, B bot laner. I'm pushing the wave, and let's say we would be shifting to bot lane now to progress. Let's say it's something like this, right? Like usually jungle and support play together. Now we're shifting to bot lane. And even if the enemies answer this play, then you will see what happens now. We are getting the push, so we can move first into the enemy side. That means even if we would like fight somewhere around here now, it would be a 4v3. That means we will have number on the play. Why is that? Because enemy AD carry is now stuck on a mid lane turret and needs to take the wave. If enemy AD carry decides to not take that wave and move bot lane, then what basically happens is, okay, we see they are not showing on mid lane wave. Now we can just go back to mid lane, for example, and do the same thing into top side. Now they invested their turn into bot side. We see it, we can immediately move topside, push mid, they drop the mid lane wave, and now their game is kinda cooked. Okay, that means we kinda got the basics now, but what if we're actually like behind and we cannot force priors? Well, there are a few techniques that we can use, and I will show you one of them. So here in this example, the enemy's got prio, and my team is going topside. What now a lot of people would do is to push in this wave. What is the issue if I push in this wave? Well, the issue is that my wave would run up into the enemy side, right? So it's not into the enemy side, but it's in the middle again. And then I need to run up way higher, but I'm not able to catch the wave. So what I do here instead is I'm kind of slow pushing this wave, so I can wait until the enemy wave is coming more into my side. And like by doing this, Jhin, you see, he's not able to touch the wave. And I like imagine if I would have hard pushed this one, then Nico is here and Jhin can touch the wave here. So this is like a technique on how you can basically force priorities as AD carry in mid to late game. Right, that's the most important thing for us. Okay, so here, for example, you see I pushed the mid lane wave. Jhin is dropping the mid lane wave. No one showing on mid. That means I need to be really careful here. I'm just chilling, you know. I'm trying to cover my teammates. Maybe I could have run mid like way faster already. But now I'm basing. I'm opening mid lane again. Right, I'm playing next prio again, which is really important. And also, if you're basing, what is also important is I cannot contest this wave anymore. Right, but what I want to contest is the next coming wave. And it's this one. So this wave that is spawning right now, I want to contest this. And it's really important that I'm able to be on this wave. Because if I'm not on this wave, I cannot progress the game. And I'm 9-1 now, so I want to progress the game, right? So what I do now is I'm playing pretty aggressive, no macro involved in this. We're basically getting a kill. And you see, what's also really important, but it's not that important for Jinx right now, or like for AD carries, is that my Ornn is actually pushing top lane. That means we will basically have an opportunity after this mid lane wave, and it will happen really often as AD carry, you push a mid lane wave, and now the enemies are defending mid lane, but your side laner prepared a wave on side. Bam, 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 bam. Now it's your job. You can just go top lane and hit the turret, for example, and progress the game. Always ask yourself, how can I progress? How can I come back? Stuff like this, like making the game playable, basically. Here we're having a really good example on like how macro can be changed. So I pushed out the mid lane wave. Enemies are not answering the mid lane wave. 2 of my teammates got caught, right? What a lot of people would do now is go back to mid lane and force this prio and then play over the mid lane wave, right? But we are also AD carries, we need to adapt. I cannot play this wave because enemy showed on mid lane wave. So if I go back again, I see here that enemy Nico is actually on mid lane wave. And the issue is that if Nico is showing here on the mid lane wave is that if I'm going here now and play over mid, then, yep, Nico is flanking me, exactly. And then the enemies have a free turn here. So what I try to do is to find like a way to kind of solve this problem. right? And now I'm thinking, okay, the only way of playing it is if we actually front to back and get like a potential good fight, right? My team is kind of slow, my karma's not in time, I need to flash, but my honest TP'd now. And like luckily I'm really fat and we get a pretty good fight off on Steel Snatch, and this is how we're basically winning the game. This could have also been really bad, but if we would have approached it from the mid lane wave, then we probably lose the fight because Nico has a flank on me. So it's really important on basically which side you're entering the objective. And also aside from that, when we are here, whenever you're taking a mid wave, you should always look to build up a safe side for yourself. So you should never really take a wave neutral, because you should always hover into a side where you are safe. Or like if you want to bait the enemies, you can obviously also hover into their side. But let's say I have numbers here, so my teammates are here, or I have like vision around here, then it would make no sense to hover into my danger side here, right? Then if we would like to take a mid lane wave, it would always be from this side, because then bam, 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 enemies come from this side, and then we can easily run out into our safe side. That's super important when it comes to AD carries and you're playing mid lane waves. And now you see we're just sieging mid. I click up really, really hard. No real macro involved, and then the game is basically over. Of course, if the enemies would have defended this, how we can like progress the game is more on like focus on basic macro, right? We could have shifted to the bot lane wave, to the top lane wave, and then, you know, kind of be the main carry, try to hit the turrets, get turrets really low, get them, especially with Jinx, get free resets. And this is basically all the things you need to know about AD carry specific macro. Of course, there's like way more macro involved in the game, right? So if you know the AD carry macro, you are already good to go. Regarding the mid lane waves, it's super important, but there's obviously way more to learn. If you found this helpful, feel free to check out my other videos, join my coaching Discord if you're interested in that, and also my Patreon, where I upload my coaching sessions, tier lists, stuff like this. And if you watched this far, thank you very much, and I'm wishing you a nice day. Goodbye.